a friend of mine introduced me to another gentleman that was 20 years my senior who had just gotten his 8A certification, but he said that it was billions of dollars of contracts. In talking with this gentleman, he said, listen, young man, if you can figure out how to navigate this government contract landscape, then we can be partners. And I was able to now leverage my experiences of doing work with the government to win my first contract for $1.5 million down at Homestead Air Force Base, doing some F-16 hangars. I didn't have any certifications. I leveraged strategic partners to get those contracts. I'll be honest with you, I was forewarned to be careful who I do business with. And so as I started doing some commercial projects, I won a contract with the company, Elkins Constructor out of Savannah, and then I won another contract, and both of those projects failed, and I was sued twice at the same time. Remember, they sued me for $700,000. What I didn't know in construction, it was people's business model to essentially bid the projects low and then take the money from the subcontractors, find reasons to not pay them, and then because I had a bond, they could file a claim against my bond. I come from a whole nother angle than everybody else. All right, so John Cook, by the way, John's amazing if you guys haven't figured that out from all the other speakers out here. John asked me to talk about partnership in action. And so as I listen to everyone out here speaking, I think that what I'm going to help people do is connect the dots. We've heard a lot of technical talk, right? We've seen a lot of slides. And I think that there's still something missing that I can help connect the dots on, and that's why I'm here today. My name is Coffie. I'm the host of the GovCon Giants podcast, a podcast that I started in 2018. I started a YouTube channel in 2017 because I couldn't figure out how to do a podcast, so that's why I started the YouTube channel first. But I've been teaching federal contracting online for the last 7 years. Since that time, I've had over 3 million views of my content. We've got over 1,000 videos online, and so a lot of people here might know me from LinkedIn or some of my social media handles. What that has done for me, besides allowing me to be on stage with you guys today, what it's done for me is some incredible things, and it's given me an opportunity to have access to, like Anthony just talked about, proximity to success, and be in a room with some of these people that are making a difference in the world for the war fighter, and also delivering excellence to their customers every day. But again, like the chief said, right, we got to go with the backstory. So how do we get here? And that's what I want to talk about. How do we get here? Because a lot of people want to do what you do, but they don't want to do what you did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, where did I come from? 2007, 2008, I don't know if people remember what was going on at that time. The real estate market crashed. There was no PPP, there were no idle loans, right? And so no one was getting bailed out, and you basically just had to suffer. And so essentially outside of the banks, right, none of us got bailed out. And at that time, right before that, I was a realtor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But before it actually happened, a friend of mine came to me, and he was a very successful guy in my community, and he was a developer, owned a bunch of properties, and he said, hey, young man, because I was young back then, he said, hey, young man, he said, listen, if you get your general contractor's license, I will be able to work with you and do some development deals. I'll fund them, and you could go out and pull permits and things like that, and if we can't, sell the properties, we'll rent them out, and we'll have rental income. So that all sounded great, so I went through the process. I got my general contractor's license, and then, the market fell from under this. There was no construction, there was nothing being built, and I was stuck with a lot of bills and a lot of time and no money. And so, fortunately for me, a friend of mine introduced me to another gentleman that was 20 years my senior who had just gotten his 8A certification. At the time, I didn't know what that meant. But he said that it was billions of dollars of contracts. And so, like a lot of you who are starting out, here's billions of dollars. I was interested. I'm like, okay, I've never heard of billions of dollars of anything before. And so this was very intriguing to me. And remember, I had a lot of time to figure this out. So in talking with this gentleman, again, this ties into strategic partnerships. Talking to him, he said, listen, young man, he goes, if you can figure out how to navigate this government contract landscape, then we can be partners. So I'm like, okay, great. He was doing about $2 million at the time. He was a residential AC contractor, so he had never done any government work before. And so I just basically read all the books, went to all the SBA classes. I did everything to learn what it was to do government contracting. And so slowly but surely we started winning some small projects, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. And so it was great. And we had some success. And as we started growing that business, what quickly happened was we started surpassing his residential AC business in terms of dollars. So then he started taking the monies that we're supposed to divvy up on that side, and like most family-owned businesses, start pushing some money to the side for this other business, carrying them, and start reducing my monies. And so I didn't like that, you know? And so I ended up, we left that, severed that relationship, and started working with another partner that also had 8A certification. At that time, I kind of had handled what I was doing. And so we started building that business, and we built him up to about $2 million in revenue. And I said, okay, this is great. But we had the point where we're at, the owner was really happy and content because he had never seen that kind of money before. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have worked with people like that before who said, wow, I've never made this kind of money in my life. And so he was really content. And I mean, I was doing 2-a-day exercise. I was in CrossFit. We were eating long hour lunch. And I said, it's gotta be more than just working out and exercising. I said, let's see if we can get to 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. And he said to me that with the bigger numbers, right, comes bigger responsibility. And so that he would kind of want to stay there. And I knew like that just didn't sit right with me in my heart. And going to kind of what Kurt said, right? There's a book that I've been reading lately by Stan Sullivan, and it says that you don't have to have the confident capabilities, but you do have to have the courage and the commitment. And so this guy did not have the courage nor the commitment to go to the heights that I wanted to go to. And I knew that we had a bunch of potential that was built up, and we weren't using that potential because he was afraid to go after larger projects and larger opportunities. So with that, I said, okay, I gotta do this thing on my own. I said, I can't work with these guys anymore. I gotta do it on my own. And so at that time, I launched my construction company, which, like many people, I had the LLC already filed, but I had never done anything with it, so it just sat dormant. And so I was able to, right out the gate, because now I had worked with 2 companies that were 8A, I knew the process, I understood it, and I was able to now leverage my experiences of doing work with the government to win my first contract for $1.5 million down at Homestead Air Force Base, doing some F-16 hangars. And so with that, I'm off to the races. Now, I didn't have any certifications. I leveraged strategic partners to get those contracts. By the way, just for the record, if anyone questions, I've never had 8A. I've never had any socioeconomic designations. So when I teach my content online, I talk about working with strategic partners. That is the principal thing we teach, aside from understanding business and delivering excellence. But we talk about working with partnerships because that's how I was able to go from zero to doing millions of dollars in my business, even without having any of these designations, because I understood contracting, I understood the language, I understood what simplified acquisition meant. So I was able to bring that to the table, right, while these other guys were just basically carried certifications, but didn't understand any of the processes. So I did that, started growing my business, building my business up, and got to about 28 people. And then I'm doing government contracts, and what happened? So I said, okay, let me expand, because as some of the people have mentioned before, sometimes the contract cycles are slow, right? They take a long time before you get that next contract until you've built it up. So I said, okay, let me go branch out and do some commercial projects. So I did. I went out and started working with some of the commercial projects. And I'll be honest with you, I was forewarned to be careful who I do business with. And so as I started doing some commercial projects, I won a contract with the company, Elkins Constructor out of Savannah. We did a police cadet facility. And then I won another contract with the company, Pond Constructors out of Florida. Well, they're out of Georgia, but in Florida, to redo the Cummins diesel power engines headquarters. And both of those projects failed, and I was sued twice at the same time.
Wow.
They didn't fail for my fault, they just failed. What I didn't know in construction, and maybe some of you guys know this, and girls, I didn't know this at the time, but it was people's business model to essentially bid the projects low and then take the money from the subcontractors find reasons to not pay them, and then because I had a bond, they could file a claim against my bond. I see some people shaking their heads. I didn't know this at the time. Again, mind you, I'm still in my 20s. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I learned the hard way, got sued, and it was not fun, as you can imagine. So I went from this, great success and doing well and these people to not being able to pay my bills, not being able to pay my contractors, not being able to pay my customers. And one of the VPs of this big $100 million company said to me, he said, we're suing you, but it's not the end of the world. Why don't you call your insurance company and see if they can pay the claim? Now, my contract with them was $500,000 roughish, and they owed me about $200,000 change, and then they sued me for $700,000. So you're like, really? But when you're naive, he said, let me call my insurance company because I don't know any better. So I called my insurance company and I said, hey, these guys are suing me. Can you pay it? And the insurance company said, no, we don't pay lawsuits. They said, but let me ask you, have you actually been sued? And I go, well, I don't know. I don't know if they sued me. They said they're going to sue me. He goes, well, do this. If they sue you, we will pick up the cost of the attorney's fees. That was part of my insurance policy. I didn't know that. So I said, okay, great. He goes, so if they sue you, just send it to us and we'll take care of it. Okay. So they sued me. I called the insurance company and said, hey, they sued me. Here's the documents. They said, go back to work. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of this. Great. I see Anthony shook his head. You guys know this is possible. See, I'm teaching you something. All right? I'm teaching you from the ground up. So now, long story short, essentially what happened was after about 6 months, 7 months, I get a call. I don't know where I was traveling to. I was going to the airport. The lawyer calls me. They settled the lawsuit. Remember, they sued me for $700,000. And normally on my slides, I'd have it up there on the screen, but I didn't know I could bring slides today. John didn't tell me that. So I just got to talk off the cusp, which is fine. I'm good at that. So they sued me for $700,000. They owed me $200,000. My lawyer calls, says, good news, they're settling the lawsuit. I said, great, what is it? $5,000. $5,000. By the way, guess how much I had to pay? $2,000. You know why? That was my cost of my deductible. Just like a car. So they sued me for $700,000. Settled for $5,000. I had to pay $2,000, which by the way, I didn't even have the $2,000, just so you guys know. I didn't have the $2,000. I was like, they had already taken everything from me. So I didn't have the $2,000. But the lawyers clearly paid it because it was insurance. And like, well, we're going to pay it. We'll get the $2,000 from you later. And ultimately what happened with that company was doing $100+ million is they went bankrupt. So they went belly up. So this was a strategy that they were doing to a whole bunch of people. But when you are the one that's in there, you don't know that. You can't see that. You have no idea what's happening outside of that. And so you're just afraid and terrified and you're being beaten up on. And it's like, wow, you had no idea what had happened if I had done something severe and if I had not pushed through that. And what would have happened if I had not fought my way through that pain? So the second company, same situation. They get ready to sue me, another $100 million company. They go, I got this. I know they do that. I'll call my insurance company. And unfortunately, in that situation, the insurance company said, well, I had a bond on the project. And so the bond trumped the insurance, and the bonding guy said, you can't use that trick here because you got a bond. So I ended up having to settle with that company for about $220,000, none of which was my fault, none of which I did. They actually sued me. The liquidation claims in the contract would have been like $30,000. They topped on all their back office support, back at their home office staff, so they tacked on all of the administration from the home office, which is way in Atlanta, that had nothing to do with the delays. Someone stole some equipment out there, they tacked it on to us because they said they don't want to file. So they tacked a bunch of charges. And so I ended up with a $200,000 lawsuit, settlement, because I might have had a bond. And so apparently, again, I didn't know this game. I learned the hard way. So at the time, it really hurt. And I tell people, I felt like I was in a barrel and people were urinating and defecating on me.
Oh.
Yeah, get that visual. But I was in a mentorship group called Entrepreneurs Organization, EO. Anybody know EO? Any EOs are? Okay, I see a lot of hands, great. And the people in EO, they really, really were very supportive of me because your friends and family, they don't know. They can't help you. They give you all kind of advice and stuff like that. So they couldn't really help you. But I ended up having to essentially resort to doing Uber and taking a job with the county at Miami-Dade to make ends meet. By the way, I still had to finish this project while going through the litigation. Because if you don't finish the project, you default, and my attorney told me to file bankruptcy. I fired him. But there was a woman in EO, Eloise, and she said to me, well, Eric, aren't your plans to be a millionaire anyways? So what's a little $200,000 lawsuit? So that's one way to look at it. And she says, if you take $200,000 and you put in a mortgage, amortize it for 30 years, so what, $1,000 a month? You can do that at Burger King. Okay. So she gave me a different outlook on how to see, right, myself in a situation. So now, all right, lawsuit settled, project's over, I'm working a job. One of the suppliers that I owed about $30,000 to, he said to me, when you started in business, what did you like when you started? And I said, I never lost money on a government project. And he said, go back to that. Remember, I started off doing government contracts. I got too big for myself and went out and started doing commercial to add to it. But the government had always paid me. I never had any problems being paid on government contracts. You do your work, you get paid. I didn't realize there's this other game being played outside of that when you go to the commercial world. You're subjected to all kind of bad people. So I took his advice and I said, okay, let me start looking for government contracts. And I reached out to some of my friends that I had done business with before. One of my friends called me back and he worked for a company called Aerostar SES, which is a Bristol Bay Native Corporation, which is an Alaska Native company. And he said, yeah, Eric, I remember you, and you did a great job, and you helped us out with a lot of projects. He says, the next contract I have, I'm going to call you in and give it to you. And so within 6 months of me working a job, I got a call. He says, Eric, I got a project for you. We're negotiating right now in Wichita, Kansas, and McCollum Air Force Base, and I want you to be my exclusive sub. And so with that, he gave me a $500,000 contract. Mind you, I've got a $200,000 debt against my name. He didn't ask. Because he knew me from before when I was doing work out there on the basis and when I was helping them out. And by the way, the projects that I helped them out on were $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, nothing big. But he remembered me because I stepped in at those times to help them out. A lot of times I sent 2 or 3 crews, helped them do the work. And I said, don't worry about it. My guys were already on site. They were already there anyways. It didn't cost me anything. Don't even worry about it. And so people remember that about you. And so when I was climbing up and I'd done all these great things for people, they remembered that. And so he gave me a project for $500,000. And then from that, again, Bristol Bay Native, for any guys that know, Alaska Native corporations, they have a bunch of subsidiaries. They do about $3 billion. I think they have 200 subsidiaries. So they're doing this at like real scale. Their sister company called me and said, hey, we've got this project at Eglin Air Force Base. We're redoing a hospital. We don't have a contractor that can help do these metal buildings. So we flew a guy out there, and I won another contract for $5 million. And so basically, I never went back to that job again. And I was back off to the races, doing government contracts. And so what I decided to do when I came back around and I had this $30 million strategic partner working with me on a $5 million project, I'm still $200,000 in debt. I decided at that time that I wanted to not go through the same process that I did before. And because I had went through so much pain, I wanted to help other people and build up an army of companies so that we can fight the bad actors. And so that's when I launched my YouTube channel. And so in 2017, while I was working on this contract, I launched my YouTube channel. And so for 2 years, I made YouTube videos every single day talking about how to do business with the government. And then, like I said, I started my podcast where I interviewed the top small businesses to give you a different insight and perspective on what does it take to do business with the government at the highest levels. And so many of the people that on stage, like Anthony and John Cook, they've been on my podcast sharing their journeys and their stories. And so we have been able to impact more than 7,000 small businesses in terms of our trainings and our programs. And so what we like to say is we take people from 0 to 5 million. So when people are asking, like, what do you do in that stage? I got you there, right? And so we help people get to that level, right? We take them from the ground up. I like to say we take them off the street and wash them up, dust them off, give them haircuts, put them on a new outfit. And then, we make it look pretty, and then we turn them over to John. And then John takes you up there, and then you go over to the stall, and then they can take it from there. I'm out of it at that point. So, in doing these things, start my YouTube channel, we're building it up, we're training people, we're teaching folks. 2018, I get a call from a guy off YouTube, and he says to me, young man, hey, I've been watching some of your videos and content. By the way, for the record, when I started my channel, I had nothing to sell. I just made content. I didn't have a CRM, I did not capture emails, I just made videos. And nothing to sell. So I didn't have a course, I didn't have any programs, I didn't have any consulting business, I didn't have no side hustles. I just was like, these people hurt me so bad, I'm gonna train anyone who will listen to me about how to do this. That's what's in me. So I didn't care about money. I didn't care about money because I was getting money from my contracts. So I didn't care about money. But this gentleman reached out to me and says, hey, son, I saw your videos and I want to work with you. I've got a construction company out of Rhode Island and I want you to help me. We've been in 8A for 3 years. We've never won any contracts. Anybody been in that situation? Heard stories like that? Right? So I said, well, I have nothing to sell you. He goes, okay. He goes, well, I've got more money than time. I said, that's great for you. I said, I got 100 videos to watch on YouTube. Go watch a video. The guy was really pushy. And so he said, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $5,000 to meet with me. I said, oh, well, that's pretty good. And I'll fly to you. I said, oh, that's even better. So I said, all right, I can do that. And so we ended up meeting, and we met. And then he offered me another $8,000, $9,000 to go and meet his team. And he said, I want you to see that I'm for real, like, I have a real business. And they were doing about $20 million a year. But again, they had no success. And if anyone knows Rhode Island, there's a bunch of ports around there, Groton Sub Base, Newport Naval, Kittery, Maine, all those things. And he goes, I live here and I can't get contracts in my backyard. And I said, listen, I did this stuff a while ago, it's been some time. But I kind of know the process of what I did and I could do that. And so, interesting enough, I share this story because I just taught a class a week ago on social media. So I started reaching out to some of the small business professionals in Rhode Island. I did some market research. I figured out who's buying construction up there. There were 2 8A construction companies in Rhode Island at the time. Two. And if you look up how much spending Newport Naval has in construction, it's crazy. And so I reached out. NAFAC was one of the people on our list. And so we reached out to them. And the guy who was the small business person for NAFAC recognized me from YouTube. Now, I was trying to keep that a secret. I wasn't trying to But when I called him and he called me back, he said, Eric, I know who you are. And I said, yeah, I'm the guy who just called you from Excel Construction. He goes, nah. He said, I know who you are. And I said, who am I? He says, I've seen your content. I know your voice. I knew I recognized you when you left me a message. But that gentleman connected me with the decision makers. And he said, I'm going to make sure they call you back. And from that, we were able to get a $4.5 million sole source of IDIQ. Fast forward, I helped that gentleman. We did about $15 million together. We're growing, and we said, okay, listen. I said, there's one thing that I did a long time ago, that this whole tribal thing, that I think we can leverage this to get some bigger projects. So we do it, except we're working on different bases. We're at Groton Sub Base. And so I met this guy who's on my podcast, who has worked for a tribe. I will not name the tribe. And I said, hey, listen, we're doing about $20 million a year. We want to work with you guys. There's some big IDIQs coming out. We don't have the bonding capacity to do it, but we know how to do that kind of work. And he said, cool. And so there was literally Newport Naval, and then Kittery May, and then Toby Hanna, if anybody knows Toby Hanna, they all came out with these $200 million IDIQs in construction, but the bonding limits were crazy. Like, no small business had those bonding limits. So I'm partnered with this tribe, and the guy was a great guy. And so when we did the first one, Toby Hanna, which by the way, we put together the whole package. We put everything together, like we packaged it. When they started making awards, we didn't get a phone call. So I called the government and I said, hey, what's up? You know, you guys can call us. You didn't tell us we won or lost. They said, you guys submitted a package. I said, yeah, we submitted a package. Hey, Harry, you submitted that package, right? Harry's team did not submit the package. Yeah. By the way, if you guys know about IDIQs, there's a seed project which you have to estimate. So our estimators, safety, have to be putting together packages. So we've got about $25,000 invested in that for it not to be submitted. Next IDIQ, Rhode Island. They submit the package. They didn't submit the teaming agreement late. Third one, we submit the package. It comes back for review. And what happens? When they resubmitted the package, they didn't include the original changes. See, all my contractor people know, they're like shaking their head, you guys know this stuff. We lost about $90,000 in expenses of working with these guys. And that's when I went on a mission to find other partners. And that's how I found John. I spent 2 years traveling the country. You guys can go back on my LinkedIn and look it up. I was in Alaska at the ANC conference. I'd have been in Hawaii twice. I was on Navajo Nation. I went everywhere trying to find a partner. And fortunately, my buddy over there, Adam, who's on my podcast, Adam, raise your hand. Okay, he connected me to John. Well, several people had told me about John, but he connected me to John. And John says, Eric, I got you. This will never happen again. And so I'm very thankful, right, to be able to now say that we're working with the SJ team. We have some things that we're negotiating now. And I can tell you that personally, I've lost 3 years working with the wrong partners. So when I tell people to come here, you know, my people, my students, I put it out in the content. When we had my conference last year and I brought John to the table and we did a tribal panel, which was the genesis for this, it's because I know what it did for me. And I know what it did in my business. And I know how much time I wasted with the wrong people. And I know how much it cost. And I want to save everyone out here from having to go through that. I don't want you to deal with what I deal with. I don't want you to face what I face with. I don't want you to have to expend that money. Many of you don't have those kind of resources to waste. You don't have that kind of time. And so the reason why I'm here, talking about partnership and action, is because I have now, for the first time, felt like we could really take off and soar with all the things I've learned, all of my abilities, all of my gifts, all of my talents, everything that I've built up for the last 17 years, right, working with the right people. And so John has, his group has been amazing. Now we're working with Emil and their group, and Jeff. Where's Jeff? Oh, Jeff's back there. You go, Jeff back there. And so we're now finding harmony and synergies, right? And I can't tell you how much that's worth. Because again, and I think you guys mentioned it, right? Some of these things will come out every 5 years. So if you miss it, you got 5 years to wait. How many 5-year windows do we have? Not many, right? So if you measure your life in summers, some of you have 20 summers left. I know that was kind of corrective. I got it. Listen, y'all put me up here, man. Y'all gave me the microphone, John. You can't take it back now. But the reality is that's how I think we should look at things, because I think we oftentimes try to hide from the reality of where the truth. And I want to just kind of lay out the truth, because we have to live in the world every day. We've got to be amongst all of us every day. And so really you can't avoid the truth anyway. So I mean, you're just basically pretending. But at the end of the day, I can say for me, I've gone through this painful experience, this painful journey, to be able to give back to so many of you guys out here and to be able to help you to encourage you, to provide the strength and the guidance, the tools. Like I said, all of our content lines for free. Our podcast is absolutely for free. It's on all the channels. And you can hear these stories from these incredible people like John, and then we're going to get John Schrock on there, and like Anthony. And go back, and we were talking yesterday about coming back on and doing a repeat episode, because we interviewed him 5 years ago. I'm sure he hadn't done the $700 million episode on that screen 5 years ago. By the way, John, thank you for putting me in front of that guy and after, the big guys. I appreciate that. So, at the end of the day, we want to, again, I know we're all singing their praises. I'm very happy to be with them. And I want to say this, John, when I came to him with what I was doing and my ideas, he fully supported everything that I wanted to do. And I said, John, listen, I'm so frustrated with this process. I'm so frustrated with working with bad actors that I need to take control of my destiny. And so he said, okay, what is it you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to set up an entity-owned organization where I could be a part of it, where we can give back to my community and my people. And so he said, all right, let me talk to my people. And so John Chiraka and his crew, GovCon Pros, we're now a client of theirs, and are helping us to set up an entity that we'll be able to give back to all of you out there. And so I can tell you, from going through the litigation lawsuits, driving Uber, to now creating a vehicle where we can provide contracting actions, opportunities, and community benefits back to a tribe, it just warms my heart. So I thank you guys. Thank you guys for letting me talk. Thank you, John. Have a wonderful day.